In 17 sentences in this autopsy report, it mentions the victim has suffered from vital reaction. This guy was alive. The disturbing thought of being butchered alive is very hard to comprehend. The true test of the vital reaction is to remove the skull cap during an autopsy. When the skull cap is removed and the brain is exposed, a vital reaction to a forensic scientist or a doctor, you would see a hematoma on a blood vessel. Not big, just a burst. Okay? That's the body's reaction to pain. So if you roll somebody over and you whack them on the back of the head and they go unconscious, probably not. They're just going to have a hematoma and they're going to have a headache. If you roll somebody over with a steamroller very slowly, inch at a time, foot at a time, the brain just goes haywire. The brain can't handle that kind of pain, and the person passes out, which is a good thing. This guy's skull his brain was covered with them. From front to back, all lobe areas were covered with hematomas. This gentleman was alive when this took place. Then I came upon a case which was a horse that was found in Colorado. When eyes are removed, you have a viscous type of fluid that flows. Not blood, it's just fluid behind the eyes. The investigator is standing there and he's looking at this horse's face and he's just staring and staring and staring, and he finally comes to the conclusion that, wait a minute, if the eyes were removed and the horse was on his side, the visceral fluid would have went this way. But instead, the visceral fluid went right down his snout, over his lip to his missing jaw. That horse was alive. He was standing up. Dr. Lear, sure you've heard of Dr. Lear, the guy that finds all the little transmitters and stuff under people's skin. Mentioned some cases in LA and California that he was involved in early on in his career, which got him really involved in UFO phenomenon and abduction and what he studies now, which is the placing of radio transmitters in people. Thought for years that cattle wasn't the only thing that was being mutilated out there. There's a couple more quick cases that I found. Can't get a whole lot of information on them, but I'm trying. There was a case in 2005 is the latest, and that took place in Egypt, Beni Mazar region of Cairo, where 3 families, men, women, and children, were all found, murdered and mutilated in the same fashion. Youngest being 3 years old, oldest being 47 years old. The local police were quick to blame it on a retarded man who lived 200 miles away and had no way of getting to that scene. He's paraplegic. But when you got to come up with somebody, just come up with somebody. Then there's 2 cases that come out of the Vietnam era, and there was enough horror to come out of the Vietnam era to last a lifetime. One just came to light where a United States naval combat photographer was assigned to the base at Da Nang and was called to go along with a rescue team to check out the crash of a B-52. They got on the scene, and the photographer noted that the plane didn't crash. It looked like it was placed in the jungle. There was no damage to the wings. Nothing was tore off. It wasn't all banged up. No fire. It just looked like it was just set down in the bush. Upon entering the plane, checked for survivors. All 5 crew members were found strapped in their seats, mutilated, just like cattle. The report went back to their headquarters in Da Nang, who sent out a MACSOG unit, which quickly white phosphorused the whole plane and burned it to the ground. That team was taken back to Da Nang, and they were interrogated with the use of sodium pentothal. This happened a long time ago. This guy just remembered it a couple months ago. So I'm sure we're going to hear from other people that were on that team. And another case that was remarkable was a Black Ops unit was operating in Cambodia. They're coming down the Kokoda Trail, or what they called the Kokoda Trail, which did not exist in Vietnam, by the way. And they came upon 8 aliens, who they described as small gray creatures, loading body parts from a firefight into small containers. The second firefight broke out. We won. They lost. The bodies of the aliens and the body parts from the firefight were all recovered, and that's the last we ever heard of it, and that's the last anybody will ever hear of it. The government took over. Does the government believe in abduction? Absolutely not. People who have been abducted are just losing their mind. I've read some pretty credible cases, and I've talked to some pretty credible people. Am I a believer? Absolutely.